And now that we're going to be recording and everybody can tune into this afterwards. So like I said, we're going to be diving into the research of our amazing students and alumni today. My name is Christy Jones and I'm an education advisor here at the university. And I am joined today by Dr. Hilary Layton, who's an associate professor and the program head for the MA in Environmental Education and Communication programs. And then we're also joined by our award-winning students, Stephanie Alexiuk, Melissa Donagh, and Heidi Widmer. So we're really excited to be digging into a whole discussion with them about the amazing work that they've been doing. So a little bit about our agenda today. So now that we've introduced ourselves, we'd also love to know where you're joining us from too. So if you do feel comfortable at this time while I'm going through the agenda, feel free to just type into the chat box and maybe let us know where in the world you're joining us from, what drew you to the webinar, anything you'd like to share, what industry you're working in maybe, feel free to type it in there. And so for today, we're going to be doing a brief overview of the Royal Roads University experience, what it's like to be a student with us, a little bit about the program itself, and then we'll begin our conversation with our MEEC students. And then finally, at the end, we'll be doing a application process overview and what that looks like if you are looking into taking the program yourself.
Hey, Christy, we've got Edmonton and Peru and South Korea. Oh, we have the world joining in. Fall River, Nova Scotia.
This is fantastic.
Pemberton, Antigonish, Nova Scotia, Halifax. We've got quite a lot of East Coasters here. The UK. Yay. Hi, Jane from the UK and Jen from Calgary. So
perfect.
Great.
Thank you all.
Sorry, I just wanted to help you with the chat there. I know it's always hard to do a lot of things. And yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, thank you. And we really do have an international crowd here today, which is so great. So if you are unfamiliar with our campus, here's a little bit of a snapshot of it. Of course, for the past year now, all of our classes have been online due to the pandemic, but we're hoping to be back on campus as soon as we can be and as soon as it's safe to do so. And even if you don't end up taking this program, we hope that when it's safe, you're able to come visit us as well, because it's a beautiful campus for you to check out. So on the top left-hand corner here, we have Hatley Castle. It was built in the early 1900s by the Dunsmuir family. So it's a very historic building on our campus, and it's a kind of a center point of our campus where we have buildings surrounding it. You can see the ocean behind it. There's beautiful forests surrounding it as well, which you can kind of see, but we're on over 500 acres of old growth forest. So it's a beautiful mix of historic campus, historic natural points to explore, and everything in between. Then on the top right-hand corner, we have the Japanese gardens. So we also have a whole network of manicured gardens that you can explore when you're visiting us on campus. So the Japanese gardens is just one of them, but we also have the Italian gardens, we have the rose gardens, and we have a croquet lawn. So we have a lot of beautiful places that you can take a break from your studies and just get out and explore the campus. And then on the bottom left-hand corner, we have Esquimalt Lagoon. So we're also right on the water, which is pretty amazing. Esquimalt Lagoon is a bird sanctuary, so there's lots of wildlife that you can view if you are interested in that. And yeah, it's a lovely spot. And then the bottom right-hand corner is, yeah, just a little ode to the fact that we've been doing online learning for over 25 years now. So this has been an integral part to who we are at Royal Roads since the beginning. And it's made it very easy for us to adapt to taking any courses that weren't already online and bringing them online and bringing them back on campus, and whatever we need to do, we're well equipped to be able to transition in that way. And we're also an Ashoka U Changemaker campus. So this is a designation that's been given to a select number of institutions, and we're really proud of it. It means that the type of education that we provide is very interdisciplinary, it's very entrepreneurial, it's very solutions oriented. So that's the kind of philosophy that you can expect that we infuse into all of our courses. And with that, I am going to hand it over to you, Hilary, to take us through the program structure.
Okay, thanks so much, Christy. Next slide, please. Right, so the MEEC program, that's the shorthand for MA in Environmental Education and Communication program, is a blended program, which means that it has, we first meet in person in residencies. This is pre-COVID and post-COVID. We meet face-to-face on campus, and then we move online for a year, and then we come back and meet again in the second summer on campus, and again do research online, and then meet for a third residency on campus. Now, some of those residencies have been online in the past few years, but we're looking forward to the future, to returning back to our beautiful in-person starts and middle and cap. So yeah, there we go. Next slide, please. Right, so our program is designed in a really beautiful way that you can start with 3 courses in the program. The first 3 courses, the first 2 are in the first residency, and the third one is the first online course. That's a 5-month-long format, and you can graduate with a graduate certificate in EEC. So we have the first 3 weeks on campus, the 2 courses in that res, and then 1 distance-based semester for 9 credits. So it's a beautiful way to sample some of the learning and graduate with a certificate. However, many people who start with a certificate say, wow, I can't stop there. So they carry on and they do the next slide. Oh, sorry, it should be the diploma slide, but here are the courses that you take in the certificate is, yeah, you start with a developing an environmental understanding, very experiential course with Dr. Liza Ireland. You, at the same time, are taking a foundations in environmental communication from the lovely Dr. Gio Takash, who is an arts-based researcher, educator. In environmental communication. And then the third, the online course is with Michael Party in learning theory and program design. So how to take your understanding of these things and make them pedagogical, bring them into an arena of being able to facilitate learning and design learning from what you've learned. There we are out at Woody's Lagoon. Yes. Okay. So thanks, Christy. Next. Right. So if you decide to carry on, you'd be doing the graduate diploma, which is all the coursework in the program. And you could graduate with that diploma if you did 1 year worth of coursework. So you do the 3 weeks on campus to begin with, the 2 courses. You do that distance semester, and then you do 2 more courses in the second summer too. And that's 21 credits. And I see a question here from Cecilia. You know, we don't actually send out the syllabi, Cecilia. We have course outlines online, but really that's a big general kind of a description of the courses. But yeah, it's not something that we normally do other than just the descriptions you see online. When you get closer to your time, you can have discussions with your prospective instructors too, or you can always call me and we can have a conversation. Okay. So here we go. And part of the reason of that, I'll just say too, Cecilia, is our programs are emergent. You can imagine that we're always updating and changing and adding new readings and new discussions and new designs. So there isn't one, you know, syllabus, let's say, for a course I would teach that would stay the same year to year. So not easy to share in that way. So if you're doing the diploma, you're doing the first 3 courses we just went over, 500, 503, and 508. But then you move on to 504, taught by Jason Young, which is a systems perspective, a fantastic course. And you move into your approaches to research and with Dr. Lila Scannell. And you really dive into how you're going to be able to perform this research and imagine what it's like to even start writing a research proposal. And then the second summer you come to 586 is the Biosphere and Sustainability, and usually is a field school that's conducted in coastal communities, Indigenous communities in BC. But it has been postponed a couple of years now because of the pandemic. So we're looking forward in 2022 to having that field school again. And you take 509 that same summer, eco-psychology at the intersection of theory and practice, which is where you'll work with me. And we'll bring kind of bring the emotional effect into our psychological effect into the environmental conversation, which is often left out. So, you know, sometimes we call it the good grief course because we realize we need to bring our whole selves, all of our expressions, everything we're feeling around what's going on. So we're moved to make change, not just think about change. So it's also highly experiential. Thanks, Christy. So if you carry on even further than the coursework and you complete with a, next slide, please. Right. So you'll do the 2 years of coursework, and you do a third residency on campus, which is 2 weeks long at the very end of your research. And your research is either a final thesis for 12 credits or a major research project and an elective course that you can take. The major research project is 9 credits, and you need another 3 credits from an elective. And there's all kinds of electives to choose from, and we're getting more and more all the time. So it's a 36 credits for the MA. And we're going to be talking to people today who are completing the MA and their research journeys. So again, here we go. There's the course list all the way up to 586. And then you add in the thesis, 690, or the major research project, 695, and an elective. And then 680, Living Our Learning, is the final residency where you say, well, this is what I've learned. This is all the coursework. This is the research I've done. Now, how am I going to implement this? How am I going to take it into the world in a real way? How is this going to be applied? Which probably you've been doing all along, but this is having that really great final push onward conversation with your colleagues, peer-to-peer, and with your instructors. Next. Aha, so now we come to the people that I really want to talk to. I don't want to hear myself talk anymore. So I would love to chat with you guys today. So Stephanie and Heidi both are SSHRC winners. And Melissa just won the Environmental Impact Award at Royal Roads for her leading edge research on oceans. So, you know, Melissa, I think I want to start with you. I know you're third on this list, but I think I want to start with you because, you know, when we're talking about being a change maker campus, you know, we're talking about a time when we're at tipping points. You know, the world is starting to reach some tipping points. And I know you've taken systems and you understand what a tipping point is and when we're ready for things to change. But tell us about your research. Maybe tell us how you came to this program and what you were thinking when you first came in, how you got here, what you've been doing in the world, and then where you are now would be wonderful to hear.
All right, I'll try to summarize all that in a couple minutes. But yeah, so my name's Melissa Donagh, and I am in the MEEK program, and I'm in my sort of last thread here, which is like bittersweet. I'm excited to be done, but also I'm going to miss this program and everyone I've encountered. So before coming into the program, I wanted to do my master's specifically on plastic pollution. And I know that's not really specific, but it was sort of something that I knew was a global issue and I wanted to tackle it on a local level. And so when I reached out to Hillary, I had let her know about some of the work I had done in Vancouver regarding single-use waste. And I really wanted to apply that somehow to the MEEK program. And because I hadn't entered it yet, I had no idea what that was going to look like. So along the journey in the MEEK program, I started.
Mel, can I just ask, was it called Drop the Straw? Was that how you?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's called Drop the Straw. And essentially I focused on one single issue in the city of Vancouver to eliminate that one item. And
the disposables, right?
It was a gateway into conversing about this global issue.
Yeah. Great.
So that was really like the initial first step in getting a conversation started around how we can make global changes, even if it's on a local level in your own backyard or city level. So we had a really good city team there. So anyways, it was successful for a number of reasons. And then when I moved to Victoria to start my master's, I wanted to work locally, but also potentially have a provincial impact. And I know it all starts somewhere. So I wanted to research, network with my community, and apply it in real life. So I decided to do an MRP, a major research project. And like I said in the beginning, it was very broad. And then my focus now has been actually researching about microplastics, so that the tiny fragments of plastics that break down into the environment that are now very ubiquitous in the ocean, in our freshwater, in the air. It sheds off your clothing, it's everywhere. So for my MRP, I'm interviewing experts on that issue and focusing on those that are researching it in Victoria, but also I have someone in the UK as well. So I don't know how expansive my podcast will be after the program, but this is my first sort of experimental stage with interviewing and collecting that data.
I love podcasts. I mean, they're in and of themselves, they teach, so these are teaching tools, aren't they? But it's a learning curve, isn't it, to create podcasts?
It is. And you have to have a certain amount of skills to interview, which I realized the hard way. But it's very fun, and you have lots of editing, softwares and things like that. But it's more just what was appealing to me was to create that organic connection with people who know so much about microplastics, and then being able to share that with the world, in an audio form where people can be walking or traveling and listening to this information. So we'll see how that hub turns out, but that's kind of what I'm focusing on with Royal Roads. And then alongside that.
Can I ask a question there? So how do you see how will you get the podcast out into the world? Have you thought about what networks you'll tap into? Yeah.
So when I moved to the island, I applied my campaign, the straw campaign, to a nonprofit. So I created a local nonprofit called Drop the Plastic. And so again, it wasn't just focusing on straws, it was expanding to the whole plastic issue. So we'll be uploading that on the website, and then people can link on there and listen to the audio.
And I love how what we really want to do is make the invisibles visible. Microplastics, it can be like, oh, it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with the ocean. I mean, we can't often see these things that are so ubiquitous. So what a beautiful way to bring this into our view or into our ears so that we can start to be critically aware of, plastics everywhere. So sorry, go ahead. I'm just.
No, yeah. So you said it beautifully, just like how do we make the unseen seen and the invisible visible, but also how to create upstream solutions to this problem, and not like the conversation and the education piece is the first step. And then from there, how do we create policy or changes that stop that negative impact? So
does that fit into your award that you won?
Yeah.
Nice
yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted, as much as I wanted to research and interview and collect all this data on a local level, I wanted to build a community of people who wanted to make a difference. And for a long time, for the past few years, I was struggling with how to make a real impact, because picking up waste, for the longest time, I knew that wasn't something that was going to solve the problem. And I felt like it wasn't necessarily the consumer or the public's responsibility for cleaning up a problem that it just has, that when the system is flawed, essentially. But then I realized how powerful it is to bring community members together, so that it empowers them to feel connected to the environment and also making those small changes. And even though the act of picking up litter or any other plastic pollutants could have a small impact, that sort of creates a chain link event for people to converse about the issue, to get government involved, to get companies to realize that maybe they're creating the wrong products. So it's like this, domino effect. So this summer, I reached out to Royal Roads when I saw the Sustainability Impact Award, and I applied because our nonprofit this summer is essentially, we're going to be running like a marine debris cleanup initiative, where we're going to be going. So we live around the Salish Sea here on Vancouver Island. And so we'll be going to remote islands and shorelines to remove debris from the environment that humans have a hard time accessing. So we're going by boat to clean all this debris up and bring it back and properly dispose of these items. So that's something that Railroads has awarded some money towards, and then the BC government is also helping out with that as well.
Hey, Melissa, I just had an idea. I mean, I know your research will be done by the time it's summer, but I wonder if, one of your podcasts could feature your experience on the boat. I mean, it would be great to go with you on the boat and, bring in something and hear about that experience. I would love that. I'd
Definitely
be accompanying you on this journey that you're doing this summer. Maybe
Yeah, and
for the second series after you've graduated. I don't know.
we're experimenting also, like we're going to be using social media a lot, just to, incorporate a lot of youth and creating videos and reels and sort of getting that message out as creatively as possible and interactively as possible. But we don't really, so I don't know what the summer's going to look like. We don't know how this is all going to turn out. But my goals are to complete my research and clean up some waste.
Yeah, and you'll be on the water.
I will be on the
Which is
water.
one of your natural habitats, I've come to understand.
Yeah, maybe a faster boat, not a sailboat, but it will definitely, yeah, I'm looking forward to being on the water for sure.
I must say, just for those listening, if I may, that Melissa joined us last summer in our second residency, mainly from a boat, which, when you had good enough reception. But it was pretty fantastic that, when we say, yes, you can get there from here, you can really pretty much do your education from wherever you are. So you're
Yeah,
kind
as long as you have Wi-Fi, otherwise Hillary.
That's right. Sometimes you had to go
your Wi-Fi.
That's right.
Anyway.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Melissa. It's so good to hear how absolutely real and active your research is, and how it plays into what you came in with and what you're doing now in such an applied, active way, and how that'll teach on and send out those ripples, if you can excuse the metaphor, and that just the good work that you're planning this summer with the award that you were granted. So well done, and well done for applying for that award. There's often awards that just sit there and, don't get claimed. So good for you for taking that initiative, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Okay, you've got a question here, Melissa. You've got how are you planning and measuring the short and long-term results? I'm curious to know about the metrics you're using.
Sorry, the results of the waste that we're collecting. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the BC government is putting together a certain method that we haven't received yet, because I'm not the only nonprofit that's going to be doing this initiative. So they are going to try to collectively all use the same measuring system. There's a bit of issues and politics around it right now, because they're basing it on waste, which is not fair, or waste and distance coverage, which on a personal level, that doesn't make sense, because some of the worst plastic items are styrofoam, which weighs like nothing. So I think that needs to be questioned. And then also, it doesn't matter how much beach or land coverage, like things could be deep underwater in one spot. So it's trying to figure out the system, and I don't know what it is just yet. I'm going to be learning a lot this summer about that, and I'm assuming they will have a lot of feedback for next year on how to do it.
Right,
better.
as you contribute to the improvement of the measurement and the metrics that are
exactly, because this is the first time the government has given out this kind of money for marine debris cleanup. So there's a lot to learn right now.
So good. Thank you so much. I'm just, for the sake of time, I'm going to move on. I'm actually going to move on to Heidi, if I can. I'm going to save you for the end, Steph. And so Heidi, welcome, and great to see you. And Heidi just is our newest student of the three. And you just won your shirk. You were saying it came in on April 1st.
Yeah.
You thought it was kind of maybe a joke because it's such a great thing to win a shirk. It really does help. But could you maybe tell us a bit, Heidi, about your the research that you're going to start embarking on, and how that fits with your own yearnings, and how you came to the program?
Well, thanks for being here. I am calling in from Canmore. It's currently slightly snowing.
Oh.
And some rain mixed in there too. And this time last year, so May of last year, is kind of when I had these questions about what nature connection really means to me and my journey. I was a professional athlete for kind of 10 years of my adult life. In transitioning out of sport, I was really curious as to my own identity in relation to the rest of the world and this big wide world out of the like narrow focus of athlete life. And the MEEK program was recommended to me initially from Chris Filler. So he was my undergraduate research advisor, as well as a MEEK graduate, Colin Harris, who wrote, if you haven't read it yet, Take Me Outside. So that's his non-for-profit. So that was kind of the bug in my ear as to how I heard about MEEK. And it resonated with me on a personal level because I didn't have, as Melissa had, like a specific intention as to what I wanted to explore in my research. I just more wanted to explore the concept of nature connection. I started to work for a children's program called Forest Play here in Canmore. And we work primarily to connect children to themselves, to their peers, and to the natural world. So through that and watching kind of the transformation I would see in kids, I was like, what is this thing? You know, like what's happening here? Why aren't we, you know, using like didactic information to like tell them about this tree, as opposed to we're going to play games and tell stories and do activities related around this place. And at first I thought that was kind of backwards, but I started to, and I still am starting to wrap my head around it. So yeah, I started from a point of curiosity, and as we know, that's a dangerous thing. So my research goes into, I would like to bring this to the outer world. So I've seen it, you know, working closely with children aged 4 to 12. But I was really curious, like, how do we bring this into the public school system? So my research will be looking to recruit 6 to 10 Alberta public school teachers to use 2 of the things that are kind of universal that we know that cultures around the world practice, one of which being sit spot practice and another being journaling, and in my case particularly art journaling. So the kind of format of my research will be a 1 or 2 day workshop. This is, side note, very much like evolving. Nothing of this is written in stone yet, early on in my stages, but the research that I've been approved for will be sit spot practice and taking that then from the workshop to an at-home practice of art journaling and sit spot. So sit spot, if you're not familiar with it, just being a daily act of sitting, of observing, of can take on many different forms. And the art journaling piece comes in more as a way to catch those experiences. And my hope and my kind of goal with this research is to, first of all, address, you know, teacher well-being. I think we're all in a place where there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of restriction and anxiety around us. So that's kind of like the first layer that I'm really hopeful to address. And then going deeper is to like, okay, this, you know, hopefully this experience has been really powerful. How do I bring this into my pedagogy? How do I bring this into my classroom? And it's exactly what the MEEK program is about, like living our learning. How do we feel and resonate with what we'd love to share with the world?
Oh, I love that, Heidi. I mean, I was familiar with your research, but so good to hear you speak it again, because I think the more we speak these things out, the more polished they become. You know, what we put on paper and, you know, get the award for is one thing, but I can hear that you're thinking this through even more. And, you know, we have to be able to practice what we preach. You know, we can get busted if we just say, you know, go out, kids, go and, you know, find a place to bond with and sit with, and you must do this and journal. And if we're not doing that work ourselves and fully understanding it from an inside out perspective, it just doesn't have that ring of truth to it. It doesn't have this more sort of energized creativity to it, where it is a natural leap to come back from sitting in your sitting practice and have all kinds of ideas for pedagogy, for how to bring this. And, oh, I can hardly wait to take the kids to, you know, or, oh, it just crossed my mind that, you know, just there's 1,000 million ways to draw a tree. And, you know, I mean, just so beautiful as nature as co-conspirator, nature as co-teacher, nature as, you know, a beautiful, intelligent, you know, shaper of curriculum. I mean, my best curriculum comes from the forest, I can tell you. It's not mine. I just feel sometimes like I'm a conduit. So what a brilliant thing to work with the teachers, because, you know, it's the care of the practitioner. It's such a beautiful ethic to work with the teachers themselves. So well done you. And is this a, like, are you taking them out? Are you like going to take them out and remove them from the world for a while, or is that the plan? Is it kind of
Yeah, good question. My initial thought was to do like a week-long backcountry lodge retreat. I'm a big yeah, that's kind of a place that I love that I want to share. But the context of COVID and the context of the environmental crisis being not, yeah, I kind of shifted away from this, let's take everyone out into the backcountry and remove us from our backyards. And this might segue, I'm not sure, Stephanie, well into yours research, but that nature is not this thing that we need to travel very far to see. It happens, you know, in everything from the food we eat to our backyards. So that was my shift from being like a week-long experience to being something that's more localized to your backyard or to your local parks, to your schoolyards.
Nearby nature.
I do hope to, yeah, host a workshop that I will be working directly with the teachers, so that, you know, it acts not only as a way for them to network with one another, because that's a huge part of anyone's nature connection journey, is having, you know, a community or a network that receives your experiences, that that, you know, you don't feel like you're just this lone person sitting out in the woods, you know. That doesn't do much good if you don't have some way of sharing that. So that's where the workshop preemptively comes in, and then the solo work takes place at home, and then I hope to have semi-structured interviews for a focus group follow-up.
Yeah, and this, you know, practice takes practice, and it has to be over different weathers and times of day or night or seasons. I mean, it's really, it really is something that needs to be in nearby nature. So the exotic lives right in our own backyards. You know, I've always had this dream, and people used to really laugh when I said it. And I don't think now we're talking about tipping points with Melissa. Well, I had this dream that I would ride into Royal Roads and there'd be all these people just sitting in their spots in the forest. And I'd say, oh, class has already started. You know, I just kind of always had that dream. And because when you come to campus, you all find a place that you sit and you befriend and begin those relationships. And I can say, as a psychotherapist and as an educator, that very simple process is probably the most powerful thing that any one of us can do in terms of daily, to renew ourselves and renew our relationship with the world. So I just think that's such beautiful work. And I just want to ask one quick other question before we segue to the seasonality of Steph, because I can hear this kind of the segue. Why art? Can you just say a little bit about art?
Oh, art is, I mean, drawing from other like psychotherapists and artists as well, like it's, you know, it's this gateway to your soul. It's a different way of expressing yourself that doesn't get tapped into, in my opinion, often enough. And art is just simply a different way of self-expression. Lots of, you know, the people that I've approached and explained my research to say like, oh, that sounds great for someone else who's not an artist. And the art process that I'm hoping to use in my research is not art for the sake of becoming an artist and knowing how to blend colors and be this, you know, create this masterpiece. It's art specifically for the process of reflection. And it's all about the process to tap into things that we might not know were there.
Wow, and you did say that in like a very concise, like the big art question, and you did it in 2 or 3 sentences. Well done. You know, thank you so much. It's so good to
Yeah,
hear about this.
thank
Yeah,
you for having me.
yeah.
I'll
And there
just
you
say,
go. You've got a
like, quickly to
volunteer.
anyone who's a prospective like MEEK applicant or is curious in any of the programs, take it from me that I had no idea what I was going to get out of this program. So if you feel maybe like nervous to apply or not sure that you have a formulated idea,
So Heidi,
I
you've
don't have
got a
any regrets.
volunteer here for your program.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, look in the chat box there. You've got Chanel. She wants to volunteer to be in your
Awesome.
program. And then
I'll
T
connect with you.
also wants you to email. So there's 2 emails for you right there in the
Awesome.
chat room. See
Thank
how
you so
this
much.
works? This is great. Okay, Steph. Well, hello. So good to see you.
Hello.
Yes, that beautiful wallpaper in the back. I've had so many calls with Stephanie with that beautiful butterfly wallpaper in the back. So let's talk about your work. And, you know, it's kind of a nice segue from Melissa and Heidi to your work. You've won a SHIRK. You've been operating under your SHIRK research grant. And tell us about your work and how this fits with your identity and possibly your vocation as well. And you know, especially in the seasonality part, the season of your life when you're ready for this and what's happening. What are you doing?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I just want to mention that I'm zooming in from a real place, just about an hour downstream from Canmore, where Heidi is zooming in from. I'm in Calgary in Treaty 7 territory. And I think that's a good place to start because I love this place. I love this place so much. And as an environmental educator, I guess I'm trying to find ways to help others feel that same excitement and love for the nature that's right here in our own backyard in Calgary. And really great, really connects back to what Heidi was talking about, where these experiences with the natural world don't always have to be, you know, in wilderness. And I love wilderness. Like, I think those kinds of experiences have their place as well. But what I found personally is I wasn't able to get to wilderness as often as I would like. So this started several years back for me. I started wondering, like, can I have those kinds of experiences that I was having out in the backcountry of the Rocky Mountains? Could I have those here in the city? And I had a dog at the time, so spent many, many hours on the pathways of Calgary, just walking and falling in love with the natural worlds. Like, and like you said, through the seasons. This isn't just, you know, from May to October, which is when a lot of Calgarians find it convenient to get outside because the weather is good. But this is throughout the seasons, in the coldest of days, in the rain and in the fog, and in all of those different ways that the world presents itself. And so my excitement about the species, I'm a real bird lover. So butterflies, bumblebees, birds, wildflowers, trees, shrubs, all of those things, and get me really excited. And this is new for me. Unlike most environmental educators I know, this is something that has come to me in my adult life. And I was joking with Hillary, maybe it's because I live in a home with this wallpaper. Like, honestly, it's sort of like affected my entire life. But yeah, so where I sleep, the frogs are singing at night. So maybe it's because I didn't have these experiences as much as a kid that I'm like, and knowing how much children today are not having these experiences, I just want to find ways to share that and to help teachers to get their students outside more so that they can start to notice the most amazing things that are around us all the time. So
how are you going to do that?
How am I going to do that? Great question.
You're doing it, but how are you doing it?
So that's where the MEEK program has really helped me, because it's really giving me the time and the space to focus myself, because I have all these things I'm excited about and all of these ideas and things that I want to do, but how do I do this? So the coursework over the last year and a half has been really instrumental in helping me to understand foundational theory and have the knowledge that gives me the confidence to say, hey, I really can understand this at a deeper level. So when I'm bringing my ideas to teachers and to children, I can do that with a lot more confidence and credibility. So what I'm doing for my research is I'm looking for ways to support local elementary school teachers to take their students outside for learning. And like Heidi was saying, for emotional well-being is probably one of my main motivators there. And especially as the pandemic has reared its ugly face over the last year, just finding how the stress that's just so alive in the culture. And I feel like there is just this untapped resource right outside of the school doors. And how can I help teachers? How can I use the things that I'm excited about, the things that I'm noticing? And how can I make a really practical resource for them to just take their students outside? So I'm creating a website that I will have some resources that I'm creating that teachers can just grab and go take outside with their students for a full day of teacher-led learning outside in Calgary, any part of the school year. So not just in the spring, not just in the fall, but throughout the year.
So tell me the great names, like, aren't there Big Wednesdays and
It's called the Big Day Out.
Big Day Out, right?
So in Calgary and probably in other places, there are schools that are starting to understand the benefits of taking their kids outside and to helping the students develop a relationship with the natural world. And so there are things like Fresh Air Fridays. There's a school in Calgary that every Friday they take their kids out, or a Wellness Wednesday. And that's just starting to get going here. But I know there's a lot of teachers that just don't know how to do it, where to start. Oh, what am I going to do? All I have is a field of grass, and a soccer field and some pavement. What can I find out here? And actually have this great quote from Rachel Carson. She says, exploring nature with children is largely a matter of becoming receptive to what is all around you. So for me, it's not so much about, do I have a pond or a forest nearby? It's like, how can I learn to pay attention to the color of the sky, or these birds that are flying overhead, or the way that the oxygen feels as it enters my body? Like, these are the kinds of things that can help us to really develop that relationship and really develop ecological identity, which helps us really know who we are.
And where we fit in and how we all are necessary in the whole family of things. So Steph, tell us briefly, if you can, like, give us an example of what a teacher would, they'd go to your website, they'd click, it would be, what they do? What would?
Yeah, great question. So to start, because I can't do everything at once, I'm starting out with 4 seasonal big day outs. So they would choose fall, winter, spring, or summer. They would click on that, and then they would get a resource that's grab and go they can take outside to do in their schoolyard with their students that season. And accompanying that is a teacher's guide, giving some tips. How are you going to manage being outside and keeping your journals dry in the winter? What are you going to wear? How are you going to layer up? Different tips for taking, and also a little bit about my own learning philosophy, my own educational philosophy, and the kinds of ideas that I've developed over the last year or two, and sharing those with teachers.
But also the pedagogies, they're so fun. There's games, and I'm privy to this because I am your supervisor. So yes. I get to have these great conversations with Stephanie, who has this incredible creativity. And I want to do those things. I want to go to there and do those things.
Right. So magpies are a much hated bird sometimes in Calgary because they're very loud and squawking. So I'm having students get together in small groups and choose a literary form like a haiku or a protest slogan, or I can't remember what the other ones are, and come in defense of the magpie and say, hey, here's why we should love the magpie. So lots of imaginative, embodied activities, embodied awareness, all those sorts of things. I'm really excited about it. Just can't wait to get it out into the world.
And this is your work. You're going to be doing this for your work. You're creating, like, you've thrown the image out and you're stepping into it, what you're going to be doing for the rest of your work in your life. It's fantastic.
Yeah, this is the start. This is the springboard for the rest of my career, for sure.
And there's some Chanel again in the chat room. If you want to go into the chat box, Steph, she's got, she talks about the Alberta program of studies that outline public curriculum includes alternative environments in physical education and forestry in grade 6 science. There might be some good linkages there for you.
Perfect. Thank
So
you.
see, we're already learning from each other. Well, I think we've probably gone enough with our conversation, unless there's anything anyone else wants to add. I'm just like super happy for you guys, and really proud of what you're doing at all these different stages. And it's just such a great great privilege to have walked and accompanied you for part of the time, and also to just keep hearing about this. I'm really encouraged. I think this is how the world changes, because how we're being together, how we're doing, how we're thinking, how we're expressing ourselves, and how we make that pedagogical, how we keep teaching, we keep rippling out. Sorry, Melissa, I had to use the water metaphor again. I just can't help myself. At least I haven't brought in octopuses yet, but there you go. I just did. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. And thanks so much, and carry on, and we'll be in touch. And if there's any other questions in the chat, we can watch for that as we just carry on with our slides. So Christy, would you like to come back? Yep. There we go.
Sure. I'll just bring my slides up right now, but thank you so much everyone for sharing all of your research and your projects so far. It really is, I don't know, the types of projects that MEEK students do in particular it's really special, and it's really inspiring to see what you're all doing. So thank you. And if anybody here is interested in the MEEK program and you'd like to learn a little bit more about the application details, that's what we're going to go through now, and a few other resources for how you can get in touch with us and everything like that.
So Christy, I'll just say goodbye to our guests if they'd like to hive off. I know they're busy, and I just thank them for their time today, and we'll see you all soon. But for our participants, please stay online, because this is the part where we talk about how to apply, and maybe how to also find some of those financial awards.
Yeah,
Thanks.
exactly.
Thank you for having us.
Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye, Heidi.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye, Melissa. Bye, Steph.
Bye.
Okay.
All righty. Perfect. So for the application, we have standard admissions and flexible admissions. It's all one application that you submit, but a few different ways that we assess them. So I'll start off by going through what the standard admissions looks like. So this would be include a 4-year undergraduate degree in a related field with a minimum GPA of a B from a recognized post-secondary institution, at least 2 years of relevant work experience or volunteer experience, or a combination of both. And then applicants who meet the degree requirements but not the GPA requirements will normally be required to take our academic writing and critical thinking course beforehand. And we hear from lots of folks, this is actually a really wonderful course to take either way, especially if you've been out of school for a number of years and such. It really brings you back into the headspace of the academic world, and writing and referencing and researching and all of those sorts of things.
Yeah, can I say something about that, Christy? If you can take it, even if you don't need to take it, it is such a great way to have the tool, have the technology. And then you're not wrestling with writing when it comes to some of these assignments you're doing, or a final thesis or a major research project. You're wrestling with ideas and concepts and what to keep in and what to leave out. You're not wrestling with the structure of the writing. To get that down first, to have that in your back pocket, is just essential for success in any academic program. Yeah.
Perfect. And I will say, if you have any questions about anything we're saying for the next couple of slides, feel free to pop them in the chat box, and we will do our best to answer them. And we have Bev Hill as well, who's helping us in the chat box from our enrollment team. Alrighty, so after the standard admissions, if you don't feel like you fit quite into that description there, we also have flexible admissions. So this would be for applicants who do not meet the standard admissions requirements. It can look like normally 6 years of relevant work experience, or an equivalent combination of education experience, a combination of post-secondary and professional accredited qualifications. And again, with that one, you'll be generally required to take the academic writing and critical thinking course. So if you're unsure about your background and where you might fit into this, don't hesitate to reach out and have a conversation with us. And hopefully we can ease any of the worries you might be having in this sort of realm. And how to apply. So to start off the process, there is an online application fee of $126.28. And then there's some supporting documents that you'll need to submit with your application. So the first one on here is your official transcripts. Those do need to arrive to us sealed. So it's best to have those sent directly from whichever institutions that you have attended prior. And right now, some schools are doing official transcripts by email, and we are accepting those as well, just because of the pandemic and people operating a little bit differently. So don't worry about that portion of things. Then next on the list, we have a detailed resume. And this can be actually quite a bit lengthier than your typical job application resume. It can be as lengthy as you need to really communicate all of your background and your qualifications beyond just your education and your work experience, but as well things like volunteer experience, any specific projects you've done, conferences you've attended, anything like that that you think would speak to your eligibility, feel free to include it there.
And
then
adding in interests and things like that, that's so often people don't think it's important, but sometimes those threads are just the right thing to start a conversation. So, everything that you can think of that comprises what you've done and what you'll bring is really important on that resume. So yeah, don't leave it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go with a resume is a personal statement. So this is another wonderful place where you can really put down onto paper why you want to take the program, your why and why you're passionate about what you would like to do in the program and get out of the program. And again, speaking more specifically to your own background and anything that you want to discuss more in depth with us. And this is an especially important piece if you are one of the flexible admissions candidates. Yeah, Hillary, anything else you want to add on that point as well?
I'm just thinking of like Heidi and Melissa and Stephanie, and I can say that on their personal statements, everything that they're doing right now showed up. So, we already started that conversation. This is the beginning of the conversation you'll have around your time in the program and your research and what you yearn for and what kind of world you're looking to try to contribute to. But also, how will you be of benefit to that program? We also say not only what will you get, but how will you give? And how will you be a boon to your cohort? And, this is a place to really speak your truth and, bring some of the context of your background and also say, where you think your research might go, because this is what we look for here too. This really begins the conversation. So taking some time with that document is really important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, and I've written one of these myself, and it can seem a little daunting at first, but it's once you complete it, it really helps affirm for yourself why you want to be in the program too. So yeah.
We have a series of questions that we lead people with too. There are a series of personal statement questions.
Yeah, there should be more information on the website for that. Bev, if you could pop in a link to the application and admission requirements, they can find that there for sure. But there are lots of helpful tips on our website about that. And then lastly on here, 2 letters of reference. So it's ideal if those come from one professional and one educational background, and preferably from their professional email address, who they are, but there is a little wiggle room there if, say, you've been out of school for a number of years or something like that, to be able to submit 2 professional references, for example.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Bev did pop the application requirements or admission requirements in the chat box too, if you do want to read more about that.
Right. And we don't want letters from friends, because we want somebody who is actually you've worked for or has supervised you or is an educator that you've learned under. Yeah. And that can also be non-traditional education too, other programs you've taken. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then on to our key dates. So if you are looking at applying for the program starting in July, we actually have an application deadline coming up of June 12th, 2021. So if you are thinking about getting your application in, it's best to get that rolling started as soon as you can and start getting those pieces together.
Yep.
And then if you're looking for a little bit further down the road, our next intake date would be July 11th, 2022, with an application deadline in April.
Yes, if you're wanting to come this summer, we're so very excited. If you're wanting to come this summer, then let's get those applications in for sure. Or
Yes,
call and have conversations with me. Yep.
exactly. And financial aid. So you heard from 3 of our students and alumni today who were able to get some of these awards and financial aid options. And we have a whole team here who is able to explore those options with you, look at what you might be eligible for. They can help you with student loan applications as well and things like that. So this is a wonderful resource for you to reach out to. And like Hillary was saying, some of our awards and bursaries and things like that go unclaimed. So don't count yourself out if you think that, oh, I'd never get that or anything like that, because you never know who else is applying and what you can get if you just put your name out there. And our enrollment services. So if you do have any questions or you want to talk about the program a little bit more, you're welcome to reach out to our enrollment team. Bev is a wonderful example who's been helping us in the chat box today, but here's their contact information on the screen here. So if you'd be applying as a Canadian student, their email address is learn.more@royalroads.ca. And if you'd be applying as an international student, you can reach out to learn.more.international@royalroads.ca. But they are a wonderful resource to be able to utilize and ask any questions that you may have. And with that, we are ready to finish our presentation today, and with a poem, as we've been doing recently in our webinars, Hillary.
Oh, so should we have the whole, why don't we have the whole poem by Mary Oliver? That's interesting. I didn't think about that, but we'll have the whole poem. So here we go.
Sure.
Called The Summer Day, and most of you probably know it. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel in the grass, how to be idle and be blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Hillary.
Thanks, Christy.
Thank you all. And thanks to the team who helped us behind the scenes today. And again, to our wonderful panelists for today. So have a good day, everyone, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Yep. Thanks so much. Great to see everybody. I love that picture.